Boom, you just spawned into a computer store looking for a laptop. How do you know which one to buy? I want this video to be a guide that can be relevant in the future, so I won't be recommending any specific laptop models during the video. Instead, if I don't forget, I'll update the description with some picks that I think are good for each laptop buyer. There are 4 types of laptop buyers: gamers, creative people, people who mean business or students, and people who don't need a laptop. Let's eliminate the 4th category first, and then we'll come back to the main 3. Desktop PCs are much more powerful for a cheaper price. If you're planning to buy a laptop and use its laptopness twice a year, don't. Buy a desktop PC. Equivalent laptop parts with the same name, with the same price, have much worse performance than their desktop counterparts. PCs will run faster due to not limited cooling capabilities and larger size, and you can upgrade them whenever you want and for cheaper than laptops. For example, Apple will scam $200 from you if you want to add 8 GB of RAM into your laptop. You can add that same amount into a desktop PC for $20. Eliminated. Now, what if you still want a laptop? First, you need to figure out what you need it for. If you want to play games, you want to go with a Windows laptop. For this use case, you're most likely sacrificing battery life for performance. So for the majority of time, your laptop will be plugged in. The important component in this laptop category is the graphics card, or the GPU, graphics processing unit. I'll explain how to choose it in a moment. The next category is for creative tasks like video editing, coding, making music, 3D work. Windows and macOS are both an option here. In this category, what you're paying attention to is both the graphics card as well as the processor, the CPU, Central Processing Unit. I'll explain how to choose one in a moment. As well as gaming, laptops in this category will not have the best battery life because of demanding performance. And the business/student category can also go with Windows or Mac.
Where's Linux?
Where's Linux?
Oh my god, he forgot to
Mention
mention
Linux. Linus Tech Tips.
Ubuntu,
Arch Linux.
What about Linux? Absolute pleb. Or Linux. This category is about efficiency, not performance. Laptops here have great battery life, but usually you won't do heavy gaming or video editing. Now let's leave these categories aside for a moment and talk about the graphics card and the processor. First, the graphics card. There are 2 types of laptops, only with integrated graphics or with a separate graphics card. Not good for gaming? Good for gaming. Integrated graphics means that your graphics card is inside the processor. Separate graphics card means that there is another chip inside of your laptop that's dedicated for graphics processing. These laptops also have an integrated graphics card for lightweight tasks, but for more heavy workloads, they automatically switch to the separate, more powerful graphics card. How do you know if the laptop you're looking at has a separate graphics card? There are 2 main manufacturers for them, NVIDIA and AMD. NVIDIA graphics cards names usually have NVIDIA GTX or NVIDIA RTX in their name. AMD graphics cards usually have AMD RX in their name. So if you see these names, it means your laptop has a separate graphics card. If you see integrated, it means that your laptop doesn't have a dedicated graphics card. Not good for gaming or creativity. Apple laptops do not have a dedicated graphics card. However, they're an exception to this rule because they're great for the creativity side. Horrible for gaming though. More about MacBooks later. So if you're picking a Windows laptop with a dedicated graphics card, how do you know which one is better? Usually higher number equals better performance. 4090 better than 4080. Bigger wattage also equals higher performance. You can Google something like list of best laptop GPUs and you'll see them listed in terms of performance. Next on the list is the processor, CPU, Central Processing Unit. Again, there are 2 main manufacturers for Windows CPUs, Intel and AMD. But the names for these bad boys aren't so simple. On the Intel side, you have i3, i5, i7, and i9. Worst performance, best performance. If you're looking for a laptop in the creative or gaming category, don't go with i3. On the AMD side, you have just these numbers without the letter I. Same logic applies. Bigger number equals better performance. But that's not all. Most processor names also have a naming section where a toddler smashed his hands on the keyboard. Here we look at the last letter. If it ends with U, G, or Y, it's low performance performance and high efficiency, meaning your battery will last longer. Good for Google Chrome, Excel, taking notes, watching YouTube. If it ends with P, it's made for slightly more powerful tasks like photo editing or coding. And if it ends with H, it's made for high performance. Good for gaming, video editing, 3D rendering, this type of stuff. What about Apple? They make their own processors, so the naming is a little different. Names start with the letter M, and higher number equals newer processor. And for power, they use full words instead of letters. Just the processor name, Pro, Max, and Ultra. Worst performance, best performance. Let's go back to our categories and tie all of this together. Gaming. Remember, for gaming, you care about the GPU, graphics card. If you don't plan to do any creative tasks with your gaming laptop, go with an AMD card because it's really good and cheaper than Nvidia for gaming. Go with Nvidia RTX if you need ray tracing. Again, higher number equals better performance. For gaming, choose a CPU with the letter H at the end, indicating high performance. Getting a MacBook is a bad idea in this category. Creativity. Nvidia cards work better for this category at the moment. For the processor, also go with the letter H at the end. However, getting a MacBook is a good idea in this category if you're not using software that's only available on Windows. MacBooks don't have a dedicated graphics card, but they work really well for creative tasks. I'm using a MacBook to make this video. Also, Apple laptops are just as powerful without being plugged in, whereas Windows laptops usually throttle their performance to save on battery life when they're not plugged in. Business/student. Here you're not planning to do any video editing or hardcore gaming, so long battery life is the main concern. Integrated graphics work well for this type of laptop. Go with a processor that ends in letters U, G, or Y. A MacBook is also a great option here because Apple laptops have the best performance to battery life ratio on the market right now. Now that we went over the internals, let's consider everything else. There's so much more to a laptop than what's inside. Here, a few more categories emerge. Keyboard, speakers, trackpad, screen, color accuracy, fan noise, operating system, build quality. I'm going to make a huge generalization and say that if you care about build quality and don't care about gaming, buy a MacBook. You're going to be annoyed for a month until you learn macOS, but luckily you can watch a few YouTube videos and you'll get there a lot faster. The generalization is that usually in a Windows laptop, you don't get the full package. It's either not the best speakers, not the best screen, loud fans, some compromise. With Apple laptops, you usually get great build quality, but for a higher price. Also, do not buy a new MacBook with 8 GB of RAM. That's a criminal act. MacBook Air models are great for the business and student category, and MacBook Pros for the creativity category. Now, if you couldn't care less about Apple, here's what to look for. If you care about gaming, go with at least 144 Hz monitor refresh rate. This is how many times per second your screen refreshes. Most often, with low performance laptops, the refresh rate is 60 Hz. And there's a huge difference. Once you try 144 Hz, 60 Hz will feel like looking at PowerPoint slides. A 16:10 aspect ratio screen is great for a laptop. It gives you more vertical screen, which is always welcome. The size also matters, no matter what your girlfriend says. I prefer to go with a smaller size laptop to make other things look bigger in comparison. Because if I'm buying a laptop, I want to use it as a laptop, which means carrying it around, traveling with it, using it in bed, and smaller size makes that easier. I currently use a 14-inch MacBook Pro as my laptop, and it's great. But also remember that a bigger laptop can perform better because there's more space for cooling. So over time, I'll update the description if I have any general recommendations. Oh, and there's one more thing. Psych.